Hello, everybody. Welcome to the North to South podcast. We are still here. If you've forgotten about us, we are slacking a little bit, but that's just because things happen and some matches we have to see. So, we do put it on hold, but it's been a good 2 weeks of football. You could say we've missed a week, but football seems to have carried on and absolutely lost its mind. So obviously, as always, I am Craig. You could say I'm the host. I'm just probably the one with the best looking hair, and yeah. And we've got to my left or right, whichever way this recording comes out. We've got Tom.
Hello, guys. You all right? Nice to be back on the pod to be chatting about football. And let's get to it.
Let's get to it. That's indeed. I've been given my strict orders to keep this very quick, which I'm very good at being, funny enough. Anyway, less of that. Let's move on to let's bang on about Arsenal again, shall we? Because obviously there's nothing better going on in the world right now. The world revolves around them, and rightly so, to be fair, because they have reached the Champions League final for the first time since 2006. They have also basically handed the Premier League's title to themselves. I can only see personally one game that will probably be difficult for Arsenal. That's probably the end of the last day of the season. And obviously we could talk about the other teams and PSG and that a fantastic Bayern Munich match. But while we got Tom at his absolute full energy at the start of the pod, we best get our views from Tom. Tom, which one should we start first? Should we start on because we haven't covered the first leg because we obviously missed a week. Let's cover the whole game of Arsenal and Atlético, not just the first and the second leg, but basically the whole performance together. You've made the final. I mean, how do you feel about that? And how did you feel both ties went?
Well, it's fantastic to have reached the final. I think, it's fantastic. I think Arsenal really do deserve to have gone through to the final. I mean, they didn't lose a single game throughout the whole tournament. That is just really, really impressive, isn't it? Defense, they've been just really, really great, and have conceded very little throughout the whole championship, the whole Champions League. The games against Atletico, I mean, it was quite interesting, wasn't it? Because I think it's hard to mention that game without mentioning the PSG Bayern game, because they were like polar opposites, like in terms of the scoreline, in terms of the sort of pace and energy of both teams and what was happening in both those games. So the game against Atletico was a much more sort of measured and tactical sort of game in terms of defense, especially. It was quite a low score overall. So Arsenal beat Atletico 2-1 on aggregate, whereas the PSG Bayern Munich game was more like 6 or 7 goals, which was very impressive to see as well. I mean, before going into the game, I was very confident that Arsenal would actually go and win and get to the final. I had a feeling in the pit of my stomach, the way Arsenal have been playing, the way that they had that bit of a dip, but then they started to go up again, and that was just at the time where Atletico, we were playing against them. I think obviously it's great to see Saka back. I think he's been kind of instrumental in these past few games for Arsenal, both Champions League and the league. I mean, he scored in that last game against Atletico Madrid, and he also, I think he's been setting up Victor Gyökeres well in the first game and also in other games. So yeah, just fantastic for a Arsenal fan that they haven't been through to the final for like as you said, many years. And I really do think that for people who think that, like who are naysayers to Mikel, I think this kind of shows just how good he is as a manager, the progression that he's taken Arsenal from being mid-table to now being second for 3 years in a row, and then now it's looking like first soon, and the final of Champions League. I think it really goes to show that sort of he's really spent a lot of effort and time and sort of dedication to try to change the culture at the club, to try to get his own players, to sort of put his tactics on the game. Yeah, I think it's all going well at the minute.
I mean, yeah, he spent a lot of time, but he's also spent an awful lot of money. So I think the Arsenal board will be the least expectation to at least win a trophy. And I think you might upset a lot of Arsenal fans by saying they were mid-table, because I don't think they ever made it to mid-table. I think 6th was the lowest they got to.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I was sort of saying, like not like, like just down towards that sort of end of the table.
He's taking that role. But no, yeah, it is impressive that they've currently they're unbeaten in the Champions League. Currently 6 teams have done that in Champions League era, so since 1992. Bayern Munich were the only team actually to win every single game, which I think is absolutely impressive, and that was 2020. But yeah, 16 unbeaten winning campaigns for European/Champions League victories, and in modern era, 6 clubs, and Arsenal could make that number 7. And funny enough, Barcelona actually, when they beat Arsenal in the final in 2006, cemented their place at being one of the teams to do it. So that's a good trivia question, really. But no, I echo what you said. And especially that bit about the PSG and Bayern game, it was literally a tale of 2 ties. You couldn't have 2 opposites. You got 2 teams who play very fast attacking football. Like, you just couldn't get a breath. I think I was watching actually that PSG game when we were last on the pod. It was that exciting. I just couldn't keep my head away. And then you got 2 teams, in Arsenal and Atlético, who like to basically play very conservative, defend very well, and basically try to keep the shape and structure. So it's interesting to see what will happen come the final, because PSG are unbelievable. And the fact that Bayern pushed them that far, Bayern are a very bloody good team as well, to push them that far. But I don't know if you watched that second leg, the PSG and Bayern game, but PSG just was they are just unbelievable under Luis Enrique. I mean, to win the first Champions League last year and get to another this year is astonishing. So I am looking forward to the final. I'm sure you are. Obviously, there's a lot riding on if Arsenal win this. If Arsenal win the Premier League, we don't need to go into all the games we've missed. I think it's been 3 Premier League games since the last pod. We don't need to go into all of them. We can go into decisive decisions. But if you just look at if Arsenal win the Premier League, which is looking very likely, and somehow, I'm going to say somehow because PSG is just on another level, but let's say they do win the Champions League, a lot of people are talking about Declan Rice being in contention for the Ballon d'Or, but I think that's too easy to say. I think it's because he's the midfielder and he plays in the middle. He's been fantastic, but I think if you're going to give the Ballon d'Or to anyone, I personally think it's got to be David Raya over Rice, because I think Rice he's had a fantastic campaign. Don't want to say anything, like he's been immense, but I think because he plays in that prominent role and it's a midfield role, so obviously someone, he's going to be focused on a lot more they are talking that he might get that Ballon d'Or, but I personally think it should go to David Raya because I think he has been the difference in a lot of these games. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I would echo that as well. Actually, yeah, I think Raya has been absolutely sensational for Arsenal. I mean, the saves that he's done have been sort of those league-winning sort of saves, haven't they?
Yeah.
Like, and at very crucial times of the game, that he's somehow sort of done these countless saves over the season. But I think most people are saying this unlikely to go to him because he's a goalkeeper, and it's very rare that goalkeepers get the Ballon d'Or. But I don't think that that's a justification for him not getting it.
I think
that's something that I've heard like quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's that midfield kind of role. You always get it's a bit like Rodri. I mean, he was fantastic when they won it, so you can't really. But I suppose he was always going to be. It was always going to be someone in the midfield for Man City who wins that. So if it wasn't Rodri, it'd probably be Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva. But
isn't Schmeichel basically one of the only goals to have won it?
I want to say,
or like, is it Schmeichel?
I was going to say
it might be Schmeichel.
I would say probably Schmeichel, but Buffon as well. But I don't think I know he never won the Champions League. So
yeah.
I think it's deserving. I think Cannavaro, defender, won it as a defender.
Oh yeah,
and he won the He won the World Cup the year Cannavaro won it. So he was immense. I've just done actually a little bit of research to see what goalkeepers have won it, and only one goalkeeper has ever won the Ballon d'Or. Can you guess who that is? I have a feeling you won't.
Well, I've always put Schmeichel. I mean, that's what I said.
Schmeichel. No. So
okay.
My pick about Buffon was very close. Actually, he was the runner-up in 2006.
Okay, so who was it?
Neuer.
Third
Sorry. Neuer came third in 2014.
Yeah.
Casillas for Real Madrid had multiple top 10 finishes, but, this completely slipped my mind, the winner was actually Lev Yashin in 1963 from Moscow. Now, if anyone plays FIFA, he's an icon card on every year because he's deemed as one of the, a bit like Pele, really, but I feel like I've never seen Pele play, and anyway, again, another trivia question. These improv pods actually work pretty well. Who knew? Who knew that I'm looking at a lot of notes here that I made? Anyway, let's go.
Just going on to the PSG Arsenal game, because I've been saying to mates and that sort of thing that I think that if Arsenal go and win the next two games and win the league, then that will give them that sort of extra boost and extra confidence, and then I think that they'll win that game against PSG. But because I think just that confidence and that energy that they'll get from winning the league, I mean, I do know that PSG are a very, very good team as well, but I just think that Arsenal are so good at defence and they're very good at sort of catching teams out and getting that one goal that is all it takes to win. I just think to myself that there's just something in me that is just saying that they will go and win that game as well. What do you think?
I am very much of a neutralist when it comes to any final. If you've made it to the final, you've got 50% chance to win it. You've got every right to win it, the same as the other team. Yeah. I think when it comes down to a final, they always say a cup final is a completely different game, and Arsenal might turn up and absolutely destroy PSG. I think, yes, on paper, PSG look the stronger team.
Yeah.
PSG score a lot more goals. They don't rely on single sources of goals. So you see they get goals from all around the pitch, like not just the central defenders, the right, the left backs, strikers, midfielders. So we're a lot more all-round team when you look at individual performances. Every single player steps up. But we get to a final, that doesn't matter. I mean, it literally players go out there knowing that they've got one game to win a piece of silverware. So you're right, it might give them confidence, but there's going to be a lot of nerves for a lot of these players who've never made a final of the Champions League. So what they've got to do, and I'm sure Mikel will say this, is they've got to go out there and just treat that game as the be and end all, really. And they've got every right to try and win it as PSG does. We've seen in the past with Liverpool and AC Milan, like that Liverpool team got to the final probably would struggle. I don't want to say struggle in the Championship, but you know, you look man for man, and you've got players like Jimmy Traore at left back, who, no disrespect for him, but you know, you're playing against, you know, his opposite numbers, Maldini, one of the best left backs defenders ever, and who picks up a medal at the end of it, Jimmy Traore. So I think when it comes down to finals, it's game on, 50-50, and it'll be a really tasty game. Now, this is going to be a nightmare to edit, but I want to just go back to David Raya a little bit, because not a little bit, but just one final thing on him. The one thing I think what makes him so likable is the fact that his story coming to Arsenal. You know, his senior career started in England, but he's obviously a Spanish international. His youth career, he was in Spain, but literally moved to Blackburn Rovers, where he was given his first pro contract. So you could actually say he never actually played professionally in Spain. He come to the UK to try and better it, you know, to get better as football and become a professional. Started at Blackburn, went to Southport.
Yeah, Southport.
Went to Brentford. I mean, he was playing on sub mud patches. And then, you know, got his big break on loan at Arsenal, which Arsenal made permanent. So I've got no qualms about the guy. I think he's a good player. And if Arsenal do the double, I would like to see him get the Ballon d'Or over Rice.
Yeah.
So let's move on to that just quickly. Onto the game. Oh, who did they play at the weekend? Arsenal.
West Ham.
Yeah, they play West Ham. Let's talk about David Raya, talk about Arsenal.
Yeah.
Let's come down to the big VAR decision.
Yeah.
And I feel like some Who Wants to Be a Millionaire lights and music should shine down on this now.
Yeah.
Unless you've been living under a rock, it don't matter if you like football, it's probably been posted somewhere. We had a massive VAR decision. And basically, last few minutes, should we say a couple of minutes from the end, West Ham got a corner. They scored from that corner with a Callum Wilson rebound into the goal. And the referee initially gave the goal. Obviously, VAR reviewed the goal, and basically about 6 minutes later, was it 6 minutes later, the goal?
I think the official time is 4 minutes and 17 seconds.
So into the 5th minute, then, yeah. So 4 minutes and 17 seconds into the 5th minute, it was deemed a foul. Which anybody looking at that, it's a foul. Let's be honest. The big talking points, though, for a lot of people, and you're going to defend this to the end, and I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm also not saying you're right, but we have seen countless times, time and time again, of Arsenal bullying goalkeepers on the opposite end. Obviously, the most obvious one was this season at Manchester United, and rightly so, because obviously we come to that end of the season now where I think referees don't want to make a wrong decision. But it was a foul. It was definitely a foul. It was rightly called a foul. What I didn't like about it was how long it took to call that a foul. And I think this is what It's ridiculous because you know it's a foul. And I've said foul that many times. I'm going to hate watching this back. But it took 4 minutes and 17 seconds to come to a decision. You've got to look at this in two ways, really. I mean, I'm going to get your thoughts on this, and I know what you're going to say. But if a decision can't be made within 2 or 3 minutes, you've got to go with the on-field decision, I think. But why did it take 2 or 3 minutes to prove that that was a foul? Like, Tom, I mean, you can answer all those questions however you like them, but that's what I'm thinking. That's my thoughts as well. But first off, what did you think of this decision?
Well, so it's the right call. But yeah, I think VR has been quite controversial since it's been brought in to try and manage the game in a way, and it has managed the game. The reason why this game is such a controversial one is because it could have decided the title.
And it could have decided West Ham's fate as well.
Around West Ham going down to the Championship, yeah. So it's a massive, massive game for it to be decided by VAR, and that's why it's causing such a massive sort of outroar. But I think it was the right call. I do think all VAR decisions, or most of them, take far too long, which for the fans in the stadium really just kills the atmosphere. It kills the energy, the flow of the game. The players, most of all, I think they also are really pissed off by just having to wait and stand there and kind of do small talk for like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. It must be really frustrating for them to have that the most. And I think the consistency of VR decisions needs to get better going forward, because I mean, I know that Arsenal, with core tactics, they often try and crowd the keeper and do similar kind of things. So it's the consistency of VAR that needs to get better for the next few seasons. I mean, it's going to stay, and there's no two ways about it. So it's the consistency, and they need to try to lessen the time that it takes for them to actually make that call. But on the day, a right call, a very, very tense game. Arsenal started off very, very well, actually. Like, they created a lot of chances in the first 20 minutes. My player of the match, or my two players of the match, because one has to be Raya, because he made that amazing save. Although it also was, I think who was it from West Ham who went through? I can't remember who it was from West Ham who went through and shot against him, but he took a few too many touches, and by the time that he actually was shooting, he was falling over almost, and he was very close to Raya. So it was a bad miss as well as a good save. So I think there's two ways to see that as well. But my other player of the match was Martin Odegaard. Just the way that he played through people, the way he carried the ball, and he sort of intimidated people because he had fast feet. He was just sensational that day, and we've missed him actually for a lot of the season.
I think he's
when he's on form, he's just sensational. Yeah. I mean, he's fast and he's quick thinking, and he's just that football brain is very, very good for. I mean, he has a very good football brain, and
I think he's got a lot of potential, and I think he's got more to give. But I have heard Arsenal fans also say sometimes he can not slow the game down, but when he wasn't fully fit, I think he was overthinking some situations.
Yeah.
Whereas other players were playing quite freely. But going back to the goalkeeping situation, now you're probably going to disagree on this right now because this is the way Arsenal play. But it was a commentator who, I can't remember what match I was watching at the weekend. I was watching one match. So it wasn't anything particular, but he does say, I think he might have been the Liverpool and Chelsea game, although I didn't watch a lot of that. He says they need to sort this out because literally any goalkeeper, so this could be David Raya being impeded, they're being literally held by players. Now, I know football's a contact sport, but it's starting to become hugging. And I honestly think there needs to be a distance because how can you defend that? I mean, like Arsenal were very, when I say lucky that VAR was there to basically show that. But why isn't the ref do it? Yes, the ref was coming back and saying, stop pushing this player over. But no wonder they're all hugging each other. I think there needs to be a law coming. If there's any laws going to come in, it needs to be around that 6-yard area because how can you defend? I know you've got 2 hands, but how can you defend something while people are touching your waist? I mean, I'm just thinking about it now, like constantly impeding the way you know what I mean? Then the consensus says, well, you've got to get your defender then to defend you, and it's starting to become a bit like rugby, like a lot of holding. And I think something needs to be done about it because it's not pretty, is it? Every time there's a corner now, not just Arsenal and not just any team in the bottom of the table who do play defensive football, but it's getting ridiculous now where players are just corners are taking that long to take because referees are watching and pulling things back and telling players off, and something needs to be done about it. I mean, and it won't surprise me the way FIFA keep bringing in these rules that they probably know about that and they're probably holding back on it so they can give something new next year because it feels like they always have to give 4 or 5 improvements to the game. But I think that needs sorting out because again, I think this then leads on to why there's VAR decisions because people are scoring from corners, the fans are going crazy, then they're waiting to see if it was a goal, and then you're watching, like you say, the consistency. Sometimes a VAR official will say, well, is there enough contact? And then the other will say, well, there is contact, and there's no consistency because prior to that happening, it is literally a free-for-all. But West Ham, I mean, this is bittersweet for Arsenal because West Ham, obviously in the relegation zone, if they won or got something against Arsenal, they would have put more pressure on Spurs, who Arsenal don't like. But I understand Arsenal would much prefer to win the league easily, comfortably. But it's also a little bit bittersweet watching the next game, thinking, oh, bloody hell, like,
well,
Spurs could literally go down, and it all relies on West Ham now because Nottingham Forest and Leeds are safe. What do you think of? Who do you think is going to go down after West Ham? Spurs, looking at the remaining games.
Well, I think Spurs have actually got the harder games than West Ham, and like you say that, and the next day Spurs play at home against Leeds and they draw. So like, they're not helping themselves to like stay off, are they? I mean, the Leeds are good, but they're not like that good. And that's at Spurs home that they draw, and I think Spurs are playing Chelsea next and Everton.
Chelsea next Tuesday, yeah.
And West Ham, I think, have got easier games, but I can't remember who they're playing.
Newcastle, they won't.
West Ham, Newcastle, yeah, that's it. Newcastle, and then what's their last game? I can't remember, but
their last game is against Leeds.
Leeds, yeah. So like, I think West Ham have actually got a better chance to like win those 2 games than Spurs. I think Spurs will lose against Chelsea. Yeah. And I forgot who they're playing their last game now, Spurs.
Spurs playing Everton.
Everton as well. I mean, they'll lose against Everton because like Everton are playing really well at the moment. I mean, they drew against Man City, didn't they? So
I think this will go to the end of the season, definitely.
Yeah.
I think Everton are having a good spell, and Chelsea are absolutely terrible. I mean, on paper, you see Chelsea and Spurs and you instantly think Chelsea, and then you look at Chelsea, you think they struggle to beat Liverpool. That just shows you how bad Chelsea are.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, so going on Liverpool, I've just given up now watching Liverpool. I've given up watching football, to be fair. But I did. When I say I didn't watch it, I watched it on my phone through a very legal source, by the way, if anyone's listening. And I watched on my phone. I think the last few minutes of the second half, and then I watched the half-time show on my phone. And then after that, I was just listening on the live text, and it wasn't pretty. And I've watched the fans' reaction after, and it's just what so slot. So for that game, poor. Both teams were poor. The fact that Liverpool made Chelsea look good just shows you how poor they were. But for slot, I'm going to say an unpopular opinion here, but I don't think Liverpool recruited correctly. Nobody thinks Liverpool recruited correctly in the summer. They lost a winger in Luis Diaz, and obviously the tragic passing of Jota, and then they replaced both players with two highly just centre forwards. None of them are really versatile. They brought in didn't bring in a proper defender. Proper, I mean by that, they brought in a young lad called Leone, who's very promising, but he got injured straight away. They couldn't pay the money for Gay. I feel like this is deja vu, but what I'm trying to get to, I'm probably one of the only people who are going to say I think Slot, because he won the Premier League in his first year, and you can't say it's Klopp. Well, it's Klopp's players, but Klopp didn't do very well with those players, and he wasn't able to style the football. This is going to come back to bite me, but I do think he deserves another season where recruitment is being done correctly.
Ooh,
I do. I mean, I know Xabi Alonso is available, but I don't get this obsession like he's going to be the Messiah. I mean, I'd love to see Xabi Alonso manage, but I also wouldn't want to see a manager lose his job when he's won the Premier League before. I think Slot's issue is Liverpool rely on characters because that's just how they're built on. They're built on characters. They're built on, the fans are very much part. The fans are the 12th man, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of character in Slot. He's very emotionless. He's very stubborn.
He is, he is very cool and calm, isn't he? Like
he's too cool and calm, yeah. And I think with my head, he does need to go. I think they do need to get Xabi Alonso while he's available because I have a feeling he might go to Chelsea. I really do. I have a feeling he might go to Chelsea. But when you think about someone who's won the Premier League, had a good run in the Champions League, we're playing a completely different style of football from last season. Let's just put it that way. I mean, don't know what this football is this season.
Do you think
if he gets Champions League and if he gets third, well, he won't get third, but if he gets fourth in the Champions League, I suppose that's the minimum in Liverpool to get in the Champions League. Because at the end of the day, they've won the Premier League very recently. But I don't know. I'm not torn yet. Maybe ask me in a couple of weeks' time. Maybe ask me after the end of the Premier League season when they've lost. But did you watch any of that Liverpool Chelsea game? Or do you have any?
I was going to ask you if you think that Slot, because he won the league in like his first sort of season, didn't he?
Yeah.
And like I'm just wondering if you think that sort of he almost was sort of too overconfident.
Yeah.
And then
season, yeah.
Because as you say, these transfers that he tried to make were kind of odd and they felt a little bit, well, it felt like he was just going for players that were going to get him more goals, but not think about the overall sort of team and structure, because like he goes for sort of Ekitike, goes for what's the guy's Isaac. I mean, and like he doesn't go for someone to try and like strengthen the sort of midfield or like the more like the like defense. And so perhaps he was too much thinking, oh, I have got this. And like
What I
I'm
will
going to
say,
buy
what I will
these
say about
players and
that,
go forward. And
there's one thing that shot. You can tell these aren't slot signings though, because the reason being is he doesn't like Chiesa, and Chiesa come in last season. The problem is with Liverpool, they have this kind of transfer committee thing. So even though he's on that, I'm not saying he doesn't get the final say, but Liverpool rely on data. They rely on a committee who make those decisions if they're paying too much, or because at the end of the day, it comes down to net spend because inflation will always rise. But he really does not like Chiesa. Like, does not like. Every single Liverpool fan loves him. A neutral football fan likes him for he's an Italian who should have been at the heights by now, and he come to Liverpool and he's never given the chance. Chiesa's come on and done more in the last 10 minutes on the pitch than any other player. He's got a bit of fire in his belly. He'll shout at teammates. I'm not saying he's great, but I'm also he and then the next game he won't play him for about 3 or 4 matches, and he only brings him on when they're in deep trouble. So I don't think he has the final say on transfers. And as a manager, anybody would know you need another defender. And I think that's what people are saying. When I say people, I'm saying Liverpool fans and also pundits. They never criticise Slot for the transfers, if you notice, because it's very well known that Liverpool use a transfer committee. What they're criticising is the fact that the style of play is so poor. There's no. I think the weekend actually, I saw this on the match of the day. Mohamedashvili had the ball and he wanted to kick it out as a counter attack, and players were just walking out from the box. And you're 1-1 against Chelsea in the final moments of the game at home, and not one player had that kind of urgency to get out and push. And you can tell, like, right, that's where the problem lies straight away. Why aren't a Premier League winning team, Champions League, current champions, not rushing out to win against Chelsea? And again, the only player rushing out was Chiesa, and I think Chiesa and somebody else. I think it might have been Jones who was playing right back, and they were the only 2 players. And I think that's what I'm saying. So Liverpool fans aren't criticising Slot for the transfer; they're criticising him for his lack of personality, lack of owning up. And I do think what you're saying is true. The ego. I think he's thinking, well, this magic fairy is going to put some dust on us, and we're going to be good again. And it's again, they had an assistant manager who left at the end of last season to become a manager at Ajax, Heitinga. And he left, and he makes you start to wonder if that he was kind of that, because managers do rely on their backroom staff. They really do. You can't just replace them. You see for yourself for Arteta that you got the set piece coach, and I don't know that your assistant manager and Gabriel Heinz was always around Arteta because they rely on that kind of group to ideas bouncing off. The manager manages players, but those coaches coach the players, and that's why they have a good. Whereas Slot, I think he doesn't really have that relationship on the sidelines. He doesn't have that relationship with the fans, and he's obviously fallen out with Mo Salah, but he's very stubborn about this.
Yeah,
he made a comment at the weekend where Salah said the standards are dropped, and he made a sly comment to Salah, basically saying, "Well, standards are also on the pitch and not just in the gym," because it's well known that Salah likes to keep his fitness up. So he's even not backing down on that. He's very stubborn, and who knows? I might just be in a good mood today to say I don't think he should be sacked, but I also like the idea of Xabi Alonso coming back. We said it was going to be quick. It's obviously not quick, but then you don't when you have a football chat. It's very natural. We're coming up to the last 2 weekends of the Premier League table.
Yeah,
no doubt. I truly believe Arsenal will win it now, and I think Man City have had their cake, and I think I've always said for about 6 or 7 weeks now, it'll be good for Arsenal to win it. but I can't see Man City clawing that back now. What I will say is, do you find, Tom, any nervousness coming to the end of the season? Anything you think, will we get over that, or are you literally confident now that both hands are on that trophy?
I mean, I'm 85% confident that Arsenal will go and win it, but there is always a chance that Arsenal players could just get a bit of nerves. You know, I mean, you never can tell until the end, can you? And I mean, I think just looking at Man City's game, so they got Crystal Palace tomorrow at home, and then they're playing Bournemouth away, and then Villa at home. And
there are games they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially the Bournemouth away game is the hardest of those because Bournemouth are playing really well at the moment, and I think that's Ariola's last game actually that day, basically against Man City. So I think they'll play really well there. And I mean the way that they beat us, like at our home, and they're beating other teams well. So I do think Man City have by far got the hardest games, and they got the teams that really want to win because they want a chance to get into Europe leagues, basically like the tournaments. So they got Bournemouth and Villa, I think, are both teams that sort of they really want to try to get into Europe or like stay in the place that they are, and so they can be in European tournaments next year. But you never know until the end. But yeah, I'm very confident that we will. And the fact is that they've won the last few games, so I think that only just increases confidence. I think it's very unlikely that they'll lose against Burnley. And then Palace have also got the Conference League, I think, a few days after we play them, so they might not even put their best team out against us because they'll want to try and do better in the Conference League, I think, than try and beat Arsenal that day. So I think it's all looking better for Arsenal than Man City.
I absolutely agree. Like Burnley, for how close they are to Manchester, don't like Manchester City. They've got to play for, other than the fans, I suppose, but I don't think they'll put up a fight. And you're absolutely bang on about Crystal Palace to play in the final on the Wednesday after the Sunday. They've got nothing to play for now. I'm sure those fans would greatly appreciate a reduced first team lineup that game. And it'll be interesting to see how James reacts to that, because he rang me up yesterday being, this is why people don't like Arsenal fans, because people like James saying, I can't believe that team, who was it? Nottingham Forest or Aston Villa put out a weak team to win a crappy cup. It wasn't that long ago Arsenal were in the semi-finals, finals like crappy cup. And he's speaking true, like Arsenal have had no tough times in the past 10 years. A trophy's a trophy, and it's classed as a major title. And it'll be interesting to see if Crystal Palace on the Sunday against Arsenal, where Arsenal will win the league, put out a weak team if he complains about that, because I 100% guarantee he won't.
Yeah.
Because any team, wouldn't matter if it's a Conference League, Europa League, whatever, as long as the class is a major trophy, gains you money, gets you some reputation, you want to win it. And that's what football's about, playing for trophies. So yeah. Tom, is there anything else you want to bring up that is any exciting news, anything unusual before we head to our hero?
Week and Howler. Yeah.
I'm so bad at this.
I mean, I think the main thing that we discussed already was VAR, and I think all football fans basically think the same thing as what we said, really, that the two things that they need to improve on is the consistency of the VAR outcome, basically for all games, and then to try to reduce the time that it takes, then I think it'd be a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. And the only one thing I want to touch on is how exciting the Scottish Premier League is becoming, because for the first time in a long time, very long time, Hearts had the chance to defeat dominance of Celtic and Rangers. It's going to be a very juicy end of the season of that one. And funny enough, Hearts, Celtic and Rangers have all got 2 games left.
What's the table like?
The thing is, they are playing each other at the end of the season, Hearts and Celtic at Celtic Park, for a chance of who wins. So, as it stands,
the table like,
as it stands, 36 games played for both teams. Hearts on 77, Celtic on 76, and they've got 2 games left. And Hearts and Celtic play each other on the final game of the season. Oh my god! And I don't watch a lot of Scottish football. I watched the Old Firm derby at the weekend because it's Celtic and Rangers. Who doesn't watch that? I also watched the Classico with Real Madrid and Barcelona. But I'll definitely be watching that game because that'll be absolute scenes if Hearts win, and I'll be rooting for Hearts.
I'm sure Ali McCoist will go out there and watch it and get very merry, sort of either way, won't he? I mean, like, he's from up that area, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And obviously, Rangers are now out of the race because they are now 8 points behind Hearts. But yeah, I mean, who would have thought an exciting climax to the end of the Scottish Premier League?
Yeah, that is really tight. I mean, I thought that Arsenal Man City was going to be tight, but that is like, imagine the last game of this season actually being Man City Arsenal. Oh man, I mean, that would be the same thing, wouldn't it?
Like, and this is the thing when they do the schedules, because they probably wouldn't have known that would, it's a very unprecedented but also fantastic end to the season.
Yeah.
So let's move on then to the final countdown of the Player of the Week and Howl of the Week. Tom, I think I went first last time. So who are your picks?
Yeah. I think this week I'm going to say Martin Odegaard as Player of the Week. I think it was really good to see him in full form again, because as we were saying, there's so many games where sort of he isn't in that full form, but sort of when he hits it, it's just beautiful to watch the football that he plays. And then you go for the Player of the Week, and then I'll go for the Howler.
Player of the Week, I am going to go with this is odd. Player of the Week. Who's had a good week of football? Well, this does not make great content when you haven't thought about it. And normally these things just pop on my head because we have a chat about football, and you think he was really good. Obviously, the main, I suppose we got to look. I've got to look at it from an unorthodox point of view, because we always go for the players who are at the top of the league and the games that everyone's going to watch. But you could say for the relegation battle or relegation zone, whatever you want to call it, was it Leeds or not? I can't think. My head's gone, Tom. My head is absolutely gone.
Well, it was Burnley and West Ham down in.
My hero of the week is Calvert-Lewin, then, because he scored the goal to put pressure on Tottenham to be to be in that relegation battle. So, do you know what? Unorthodox. Calvert-Lewin to put some pressure on that bottom of the table, boring to some. But I think that's a great shout because he is, he sometimes gets forgotten. Yeah. So who's your Howl of the Week?
I'm actually stumped for Howl of the Week. I don't think I really saw one
My howl of the week.
this week.
You didn't see any hours at all? None?
No, I don't think so.
Nothing? No.
Now you're making it up to be like you're not going to say one that's so obvious that I'm like, oh yeah, of course.
I'm going to go with not a person, but VAR for taking that long.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
That long to come to a decision of an obvious foul. That's my howler, because I think it's absolutely shocking. I'm not saying it needs to go, but I do think it needs polishing up. And I think it's very bureaucratic at the moment, because it's taking the life out of the game. But that's what we say every week. But that's my howl of the week. A very close contention for howl of the week would be Slot. Only because I think he took that young lad, Rio Ingamoa, off when he was doing so well, and he got a lot of backlash from that. There was a lot of booing, and the only player to be creative and actually put any strain on that right back of Chelsea, he pulled him off on like 70th minute or something like that, which is, again, very egotistic of him. And that could be yours, Tom, to be fair. And another howl of the week is going to be, do I say this because it wasn't really a howler, but a shocking moment of the week is Arsenal's antics against Atletico Madrid near the end, and how the referee had no balls to caution off of him, kicking the ball away into the crowd, running onto the pitch. And do you know what annoys me? Any other manager, any other team gets penalised from that. But I think it was quite dirty actually from Arsenal, but dirty wins your game. So,
well, I think maybe one of the reasons why they didn't is because if you remember the game against Atletico the week before, Simeone, when there was that VAR decision, Simeone actually went towards the ref when he went to the screens, and he was shouting, effing, blinding, and putting a lot of pressure on the referee. A lot of people are saying that that's why he actually said that was a foul and gave the penalty, I think it was. So maybe Arsenal were like just sort of getting their own back, sort of thing. But no, I mean, I did think that it was getting a bit sort of petty at it's like at the end it was just start every few minutes. I was like, come on, like just play the game. But like it was helping after, wasn't it? So like is the thing is that there is a professional way of playing and wasting time and all those things, or like a professional sort of way of trying to end the game and seal the deal. And those things are not stuff that I like to watch, but they're things that I can see are sort of part of professional football. Like you try and keep the ball at the other team's corner sort of post and like that sort of thing. And that's my judgment of that, really.
No, that's good. So, and to be fair, if you're going to do it against any team, you do it against the master of the dark arts anyway, which is Simeone. One last point from some news that I've just heard quickly, I know we've got to go, is it looks very close that Jose Mourinho will become the manager again at Real Madrid. Because there's such chaos at the moment. So, like, players are ruling the dressing room. Manager Alvaro Arbeloa can't keep on top of it. The players push for Xabi Alonso's exit. And to be fair, I think it's the most sensible option for Real Madrid to get some stability and get someone who's just going to, not put up with players ruling. So that's one last thing we should say. I feel like we shouldn't miss that bit out.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, then, we'll probably see in another 4 weeks because we obviously can't keep to a schedule. Probably see you for next year at this rate. But anyway, we plan to be here next week, and that's where we're going to leave it. European finals are taking shape, coming up to the business end of the season. Premier League title race is still up for grabs, you could say, and there could be a dramatic finish for relegation zone. So thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week to hopefully we might know who the Premier League winner is this time next week. Tom, any final thoughts?
It's been fun to chat, and hope you all have found it fun to listen to. We will be back next week, and have a good week, and see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Thank you.